Welcome and thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel so that you get all the videos that I upload. Please give the video a thumbs up and share the video. So today I just want to quickly show you how to declare a function in C++. If you don't know functions, or you are not familiar, or you have not been introduced to functions properly, there is a video I have recorded that introduces you into C++ functions in detail and with explanations and a couple of examples at the end. If you want to go watch that video, I will post the link on the description below. Please click and go watch the video, then come back and watch how to declare a function with a better understanding of what a function is. So I will be using VS Code as always to demonstrate how to declare a function. Now, there are two ways of declaring a function in C++. I will show you both ways and how they work. So the first one, the easiest one to declare a function is to write the function before the main. So basically there are two ways. You can write the function before main and write the function after main. Those are the two types. So I like to write my functions after defining my namespaces, right? You obviously have to write your functions after the preprocessors, right? But I like to write mine after the namespaces, right? So I'm going to first show you, just in case there are those who did not watch the video that I've just talked about, just a simple way of moving code from main into a function that it is basically the same thing. So I'm just going to output the name of the channel, Tertiary C++, and line. So this is the first code that a lot of beginners write, right? So, but they obviously write the famous hello world, but here I'm using Tertiary C++. So as you can see, I've displayed Tertiary C++, a simple cout that displays a string. Now let us put that into a function. Now I want to define a function that is not going to return anything, but it is just going to display this message C++. So that's going to be void. And then the name of the function, I'll say it's message. So it displays messages, does not take any parameters. On the scope of the function, I just wanna write this here, right? So it is Tertiary C++. I'm then going to call that function in main message, then boom, and the statement with a semicolon in C++, save and run your code. So there is your Tertiary C++. So this line of code in line 12, it will call this function. This function will then execute cout Tertiary C++. As you can see, we've displayed that. So this is the first way of how to declare a function. Now the second way is to write this function after the main, right? I'm going to cut that and paste it under the main. So as you can see now, my function is under main, right? If I save and run this code, it says that message was not declared. So in C++, right, code runs from top to bottom, left to right. So it starts from the preprocessors and then goes to your namespace and then to the main, and then it starts executing. But now the problem is that when it gets here, the message function has not been declared. It is not known. So how do you declare stuff? Stuff must be declared before the main. So how do I then declare my function before main while I have written it after the main? So all you need to do, just like the namespaces, you just come here and then the type of your function and then the name of the function, message, So the function does not have capital letter, the small letter. So now I have declared the name of the function, right? And then you will see that now when it gets to main, it knows, right? It knows this name function, which is message, and then zero parentheses. It will then go call this function. So now if you save and run that, you should get your tertiary C++. So those are the two ways of declaring functions in C++. Now they are obviously a bit different when you have functions that have a return type or an int, right? You might ask yourself, how do we then declare those? It is the same process. It is either before or after main, but I will show you a function that has a parameter with the same one, right? Let us say message now, instead of just sing out C++, it took that message as a string, a parameter. So it takes in a parameter, I will say a name. So it takes in a name and greets the person, right? I will then declare a name here and say the name is Vusi. Then I will pass in the name in this function. Then I will say hello space name Vusi. So that is how you would declare a function with a parameter, right? Same as a function that does not have a parameter, especially before the main. So if you run that now, you should see that we will pass in Vusi in the function, and then the function will then see out hello and the name that you've passed in, which is Vusi, right? See out hello Vusi. Now, I always advise people that if you be using a string, you must just include that header file for string, because I have experienced that with some laptops or PCs, for some reason that I don't understand. Sometimes if you don't declare or include the string header file, the string does not work. So if you write this code and it's complaining about not knowing the string, just please include that header file, then it will be fine. Moving on, right, to the second part now of how to declare a function. So let us say you wanted to write the function after the main, which is what I prefer, right? So the same thing will happen. If you run that, it will complain that the function has not been declared. So you have to declare that function. Now it is the same thing, void message, and then the parenthesis, the parameters, right? String name, semicolon, and then if you run your function now, you should see hello Vus. Now, as you will see in the video, in the description below, if you click on the link on the description below, you will see when I tell you that the function name or the function signature, it starts from the name to the end of the closing parentheses. Now, with the parameters, the important thing is the type and not the name. So when you declare a function, if you do not include the name there, that will still work fine, because the name itself, it does not matter, because you can write any name that you want. The thing that matters is the type. So whenever you're declaring your functions, you can just write the name and then only the types of the parentheses. It will still perform the same way. As you can see, I saved my code and ran. Let me clear so that you can see properly. See, I did not write name now. I've removed name. So if you run that, you should see still the same. So this is what it means to say a method signature, right? The names of the parameters, they don't matter. The types, they are the ones that form the method signature or the function name. And then let us say now I had 2, right? I was taking in 2. I was taking in the name and the age, right? The age will obviously be an integer. It's always a whole number because there is no age that is a decimal. So now it takes in int. So obviously here you would have to then include int, and then I will say Vusi is 15 years old. Int age, I'll say 15, and then I will pass in that 15, because also what happens is that you see here it's already complaining because there is no method with just name only, which is string. It is string and int. So that's how you call your functions. Call them with their corresponding parameters and then save there. So now I will then modify my function a little bit. I will say, hello, my name is Vusi and I am, and then age, and then old, full stop. Why is this? Okay, there you go. And then now I'm passing in name and age. As you can see on my declaration, I don't have the name, I don't have the age. Parameter names, they don't matter, right? In the function signature. Function signature is the name and the types of the parameters in the parentheses. And then when I run that now, I should see, hello, my name is Vusi and I am 15 years old. I left out years there, but still did what it had to do, right? 15 years old. So that is how you would declare a function in C++. So the return type, it is the same thing, because this is a void return type. If you wanted to return an int, a string, a double, it is the same thing. Let me just quickly have maybe a calculator that will take in 2 integers, add them, and bring back the sum. So let us say this is a sum calculator. So it's taking in integer and then integer. Notice how now when I declare, I no longer write the names. It does not matter, right? So I will say now int sum is equals to, then you then need now this is the declaration before, right, main, which means you will have to write the names. So I'll just declare after main. Copy, put my function here. And then I'll say this is num1, which means number 1. And then this is num2, which means number 2. Then I'll say this is num1 plus num2. Then I would return the sum, right? And then there you go. We will have to duplicate this and then have 45 here, and then num1, and then num2. Then now I would call my sum function with num1, enter, and num2. So what I want to do with that now, the return, which is the number that will be coming back from the function, which is the sum of those 2 numbers, I want to display it now on the console, right? So I'm going to say cout sum and line. So as you can see, I've declared my function sum it takes in two integers. It takes in two integers and returns an integer, which is the sum of those two numbers. Now, if you run this, you should see the sum of those two numbers, 60, right? That is how you would declare a function with a specific return type, right? So obviously, I've shown you how to declare a function with a return type because void is a return type. But where I was going with this is overloading functions. Let us say now I wanted to write a function now that took in decimals and returned the sum of those two decimals, because you can't pass in decimals into an int because it will only take the whole number. Now it is the same function, so I'm just going to duplicate that code, and then I'm going to change my types to a double, right? Double. And then of course, because it's a different scope, I can use the same variables, so change that to a double as well. And then now I have two function names that look the same, sum, sum. However, that does not matter, because when you then come and declare your functions, let me just remove those space, double, right, sum. And then let me just first explain something quickly. If you write it like this, right, this is an error, right, because you cannot overload function distinguished by the return type, right? So check that if I say double int and then sum int, it is complaining, saying that these methods are the same because the return type does not form part of the function signature or the function name, right? The only thing that forms part of the function name or the function signature is the function name itself and the types of the parameters, if you have parameters. But if there are no parameters, that is the function name, 0 parameters, right? So it will complain. When you overload functions, meaning you have the functions, your functions that have the same name, right? Like sum, they must have different number of parameters, or if they are the same parameter type, it must, so if they are the same parameter type, right, it must be different numbers of parameter types in those two functions. If they are the same numbers of parameter types, one or more, at least one of those parameters should have a different type. So mine both have different types, which means double and double. If you had a function like this, it would work, right? Identifier isn't okay. This is slow, but see now the red lines went away. It was just slow picking up. So this now is an overloaded functions because that is sum, that is sum, that is int, that is double. So they are different now. That is int, it's fine. If you call sum and pass in two integers, it knows you are calling this. If you pass in a double and an int, it knows you are calling this. So that's how it distinguishes functions with the same name. That's how we overload functions. So let me just go on and continue. So this is how you overload functions. I've overloaded my functions now. Same name, but different parameters. So now I'll change that into a decimal quickly, 45.3 or 0.5, and then point that. Then it knows now that you are calling the second now, right, instead of the first one. So if I run that, you would see it should have given me not 60. What is going on? Okay, my variable types are in, so it's only taking the whole numbers, which is what it will do if you passed in these decimal numbers into this function here, right? Let's change that to a double. Change that to a double. So now I'm passing in double. In fact, what happened was that because this was type int, it not only took that whole number 45, right? It also passed it into this function, right? Which is also would have taken whole numbers if you had passed in double. But now it should give us the decimal, right? Because it's calling the decimal functions. That's how you override functions. That's how the compiler distinguish between which function are you calling despite having the same name. So that is how you declare functions in C++. So if you want to declare them before the main, you would just write them, right, which is straightforward. Once you have them here, paste, run the code, everything works properly. Let me just increase this so that you can see the output. So as you can see, if you run, no errors, everything is fine. But if you decide to declare them after the main, which is what I normally do, you have to then write their names there on top. So the one that I'm using, and also you do not have to declare functions that you are not using. In this case, I'm only calling the double one. So all you need to do is just to declare. But I don't know why you would write a function and not use it. So if you are writing a function that you're not using, it means you don't need that on the code. Delete it, right? So if you run that, no errors should come up. So I'm not calling these functions, so they are not a problem, right? And then here, remember that you do not need the function, the parameter names, I mean. So whether you have parameter names there or not, doesn't matter. It will work because it only looks at the types. So that's how you declare functions in C++. I hope that made sense. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.